Hello everyone, Silent here and welcome back to another Bedrock Edition tutorial. Today I'm happy to share with you an absolutely amazing iron farm. This is a 12 stacked or duodecable iron farm, aka 12 iron farms in one for 12 times the rates. If you build this beast in your world, you'll get around 4,200 iron per hour, which is more than a double chest of ingots. Hopefully you have some sort of mega project going on because this farm is only for the advanced user. This is going to take quite a bit of time investment, and you will have to watch another video on the 4 stacked iron farm in the middle. This is an absolute feat of engineering for the Bedrock Edition and was graciously provided to us by Pekoneko, who has allowed me to share it with you guys in today's video. There's not a whole lot to say about this iron farm besides that it is 12 individual farms in the same simulation distance. You basically have 12 villages in the same area, each one of them producing their own sets of iron golems, each one of them killing their own iron golems, and then of course you can set up an optional storage system to send all of the drops to the center, like how we have with this farm right here. Overall, it's kind of a masterpiece of engineering because everything is spaced out just so that way there's never any issues and never any villages combining. Everything has been tested extensively to the nth degree, and it honestly just works amazingly. It is a beautiful system, and I would highly recommend building this in your worlds. If you watch my previous quad stacked iron farm videos, then you'll pretty much know what you're getting yourself into in today's tutorial. Mostly everything is the same when it comes to combining and stacking your villages. The only real difference here is the stacking, the bed layout, and of course the actual iron farms that you'll be building as well. So in today's tutorial, I'll of course be doing a full walkthrough of how to build these 2 farms behind me here, and of course you'll need to build this little section 4 times over in each of the different cardinal directions around the quad iron farm in the center. So before you can watch this video today and build these, iron farms on the outer edges, you need to go back and watch the quad iron farm tutorial. That'll tell you exactly how to build up this central bit in your worlds. That'll get you familiar with all the different mechanics and stacking and all of that good stuff. And then you can come back to this video or watch this in its entirety and figure out how to build the extensions here on the edges. And speaking of the mechanics, if you want more of a deep dive on the spacing, the village stacking, the village leader mechanics, and all of that good stuff, I will have a bunch of videos from Pekoneko linked down in the description. Furthermore, there's going to be a world download for this exact 12 stacked iron farm down in the description as well, and hopefully that's about everything that you need to know. Of course, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know in the comment section down below, and otherwise we can just about hop into the tutorial. I think this is the shortest intro I've ever had to a tutorial video. I would also like to mention that this is not the only technology we currently have that uses these 12 stacked villages. Pekoneko has also designed a 12 stacked raid farm, and if you'd like to see that on the channel, then let me know down in the comment section, and of course support this video because times are hard. Leave a like for us poor YouTubers. So again, to make it painfully clear, watch the previous iron farm video for the quad stacked iron farm in its entirety, and once you have that built and fully functioning, then come back to this video and watch it and figure out how to build this in your worlds. Once you have the fully built and fully functional quad iron farm in the center of your simulation distance, we're going to be going off and building 2 additional farms in all of the cardinal directions, building 2 farms at a time in all of these areas. You can build 2 farms one day and then wait like a week and build the next 2 farms, or you can build them at basically any rate that you like, but you have to build 2 at a time. You can't start on these 2 and those 2 at the same time. You gotta build up just these 2, complete them, and then move on to the next set. So build these at your leisure. Our first iron farm is gonna be going in the furthest out chunk over here, and we're gonna start by building the spawning platform. So go up off the ground by 4 blocks, and then just fill in that entire chunk, that entire 16 by 16 area. As you can see there, make sure that you have some form of reliable chunk alignment going on. As you can see, we have our chunk border resource pack enabled, which makes this very straightforward. We're also going to mark out the center of this platform, so go in diagonally by 8 blocks, and then mark that out, and that is going to be the center of your chunk. That is the center of the platform, basically. We need to expand this a lot, however, so bring it forward by 2 blocks towards the middle of your Iron Farm AFK area, and then we need to expand this platform 7 blocks to the right as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then bring this forward, connect the corners, and then fill in that entire platform. Now that we have this filled in, we need to go ahead and put an edge around this as well, just made out of solid blocks going all the way around this entire platform. And then once you have that in, go ahead and put a layer of glass blocks above that too. Once you have the bottom spawning platform in place, we need to make another one exactly like it, but 5 blocks upwards. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 blocks right there. That is going to be the height of your next spawning platform. And again, it basically needs to be exactly the same as the lower one. Now that your second spawning platform is in place, so let's go down to the lower one and install our item collection real quick. So you need to go to the lower right corner of your chunk marker right here, and this should notably be going towards your AFK chunk, as you can see over there marked in gold. So we're going to go over to the right of this block by 3, 1, 2, 3, pop out that block, go down below, and then we're going to just place down a chest or a double chest for item collection, hopper above it, campfire above that to kill the cats, and this is where all of your iron, poppies, string, and all of your drops from the iron farm will be collected. Go ahead and put 2 signs above that real quick to prevent the smoke from going upwards. Now that we have this little thing in place, go ahead and break the block right above this in the upper platform and go up here. We now need to clear out a little square in the middle of this platform simply so that we can easily place in the beds and so that the villagers think that they can get to the beds. So we need to break out 3 blocks in this direction and that direction, and then of course 5 blocks to the left and 5 blocks to the right as well. Now that we have this hole removed, we can go ahead and set up the platform for our beds. So go 2 blocks above that sign right here, and that should leave a 1 block gap between the ceiling and this little floor right here, and that's exactly where your beds are going to go. So we need to send this platform going 2 blocks towards the front or towards the center of your build, and then 1 block away from your build, 5 blocks to the left, just like so, and then 4 blocks to the right as well, basically creating a 10 wide, 4 long little platform for your beds to go on. We'll install the beds much later in this video. And now we need to set up the villager containment unit, so we need to go up 4 blocks off of the ground right here at this height, and then go inwards by a couple blocks, 3 blocks to be exact. That way we're lined up with this bit of the platform. Now, the center of your villager containment unit needs to be directly left and downwards of the center of this. So basically, this block right here needs to be lined up right with that. Does it make sense? Hopefully it does. Anyway, it's basically going to be 5 blocks wide, 1 block long, and that's where all of your villagers in your iron farm will be residing. Go ahead and surround the entirety of this platform right here in a 3 block tall wall of glass blocks. It doesn't necessarily need to be glass, but most of this will be replaced with workstations later in the tutorial anyway, and it's good to be able to see your villagers to make sure they're not deaded at all times. Once you have that wall built up, go ahead and flood the inside of this thing, and then place in your trapdoors. The trapdoors are going to be separating the villagers from one another, and the water will prevent the villagers from unlinking from their workstations. So that concludes part 1 of this tutorial, showing you how to build up the basic structure of the iron farm. Moving on to part 2, we're going to talk about how to get the villagers in here and how to stack the villages as well. And then part 3 will be finishing up the iron farm and building up the next sections. And now it's time to install the bridging and the scaffolding for all of your villagers to walk on. This needs to be fairly precise, otherwise your villages will not stack, so make sure you're following closely. Anyway, we're going to go to the back left corner of this iron farm right here and go in by 5 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we're going to go out until we hit the next chunk border, which will be right here. Go out another 14 blocks or just 2 blocks shy of the next border and turn the corner until you hit the next chunk border, which is right here. Once you hit this border, you need to go out across all 3 of the next chunks, aka 48 blocks. Again, all of this stuff needs to be fairly precise, so make sure you're following along relatively closely. Once you get to the 4th chunk, which will be this one right here, just go to about the center of the chunk, and this is where we're going to be creating our new village and all of that good stuff. Once your bridge is in place, we need to make a staircase going from that bridge up to the containment unit, which is a pretty straightforward thing to do. Doesn't particularly need to be too precise, but you should be using some stair blocks to make this a lot easier for you. And of course, we're basically just going to be tricking the villagers' pathfinding and AI to make them go right into all of these cells for you. Once you have the staircase going up, we need a staircase going down on the other side. The villagers are never actually going to be using this one, but again, it helps them link to the beds and helps them create the village with minimal issues, which is always a good thing, especially when messing with this sheer amount of villagers. So just a basic staircase like that one will work. And of course, you'll also want to install guide rails and guardrails all the way along this entire thing, especially up here at the top. That way the villagers don't knock each other off as they're walking around, because they kind of love to do that. So install guardrails all the way along your entire bridge, especially in this area right here. One little note about your villager containment pods, you actually need 3 trapdoors in here. That way, once you fill up this cell with 4 villagers, you can flick that down and stop them from bouncing up and down and being all jumpy like that. Then you can go ahead and replace that block, break that one, fill up this cell with 4 villagers, and so on and so forth. So make sure you build your scaffolding and your bridging accordingly. So now is probably a good time to say that you need to build another one of these farms in this chunk right here. It is exactly the same, but it is mirrored. So basically you just flip it across the side and it's basically done. So follow the tutorial. Every time I say like 5 blocks to the left, it's going to be 5 blocks to the right, for example. So a complete mirror of this farm, but on this side right here. And here's an example of what it looks like when you have 2 farms built up next to each other, ready to go to get your villagers in place. As you can see, I built up one of the farms out of quartz and the other one out of the smooth stone. That way you can tell exactly where one farm ends and the next one begins. As you can see, they do not share a wall. Their walls are instead just touching each other like so. And that's basically all there is to it. It's an exact mirror of what I just showed you how to build, but on the other side. And now we can finally get to messing with the villagers, the best part of this entire build process, where you will definitely not tear out any of your hair messing with the annoying villagers. We got a lot of villagers to go through, so hopefully you are pretty well with these things. Anyway, of course, you're going to want to have your villager breeder be a couple of 100 blocks away, send your baby villagers to the nether, let them grow up, minecart them through the nether to your various different nether portals, and then send them through and use them for the farm. During the linking process and moving of your villages and stacking your villages, you will want it to be nighttime as well, that way the villagers actually walk to their beds and sleep in their beds as well. Trust me, it being nighttime is absolutely crucial. So in the previous tutorial for the quad stacked iron farm, I made a minor mistake with, originally creating the village. What you want to do is place down 1 bed, send through 1 villager from the nether portal, and have him sleep in the bed real quick, which might take a second. There he goes. Place down the bell, and then break the bell. Of course, he's going to be the village leader with the storm cloud particles. You can ignore the green particles. Those ones, all you're worried about are these storm cloud particles. Now what you want to do is you want to place down 2 more beds and then send through another 2 villagers. Break that nether portal and test who is the villager leader once again. If we wake that guy up and then break the bell, you can see that he is still the villager leader. However, if one of these 2 guys becomes the leader, then you need to kill both of them and restart getting another 2 villagers in here. Whenever you add new villagers to an existing village, that can kind of scramble who the original leader is, and it's just kind of a whole big mess. So you want to make sure that you get it right from the start. That way you don't have issues later on in the tutorial when it comes to adding the rest of the villagers and actually stacking the village. Sorry to any of those of you who had issues with the quad stack design. It's my bad. I messed up mildly. Now that we have all of that out of the way, we can start moving these villagers ever so slowly towards the center of the farm. So what you need to do is place down a bed, break 1 for the side guys. He's going to go ahead and bounce around a whole lot. and eventually he'll pathfind to that bed over there. As you can see, he linked to it, now he's gonna go sleep in it. We can place down another bed, break this guy's bed, and just basically repeat that entire process, moving this guy closer to the edge over there. So now we're going to place down yet another bed, place the one for the leader guy, wait for him to sleep in it, and now we can actually start moving this guy further along as well. He'll go ahead and link to that bed, bam, start sleeping in it, break that one, and you kind of get the idea. You're just moving these guys like 10 to 15 blocks at a time until you get to this corner area. So now we've moved all 3 villagers to the corner area, and this guy is of course still the leader village, which we can confirm by placing down the bell. And then once that links to everybody, go ahead and break it, and as you can see, he still has these storm cloud particles. Now it's very important that we leave the village leader right here on the corner with the bed just like so, with the exact spacing that we built for this bridge. And it has to be right here, otherwise the villages can combine and overlap and you won't have a perfect stacking. You'll just have one village instead of 2 for your 2 separate farms. So place the villager leader's bed right there, break his bed, wait for him to link to it. Once he goes and sleeps in it, then you want to build a containment unit around this thing so that he can't jump off of here or leave this area or die or anything crazy like that. This guy is going to stay here until the very end of this farm. Now we're going to go ahead and move these 2 villagers to this area right here. And now that we got our 2 additional villagers right to the base of these stairs, we're going to go ahead and place down a bed on the platform down here. Now we need to place the bed lined up right with the center of the containment unit for the villagers, and that should be the furthest bed in the village. Now that we have that bed right there, let's go ahead and break the bed of this guy. We should see him linked to that bed if everything is set up perfectly. Cross your fingers, and he should just go ahead and walk to that as well. Where are you going, dude? You're going the wrong way. There he goes. He linked to it, and now we should start pathfinding to it as well. You might need to give him a little nudge, but there he goes. He's going to run up the stairs. Make sure you remove the blocks so that he falls right into the chamber like so. Now that we got our first villager into our containment cell, we need to give all 3 of these guys a workstation. Make sure to use either a fletching table or a smithing table because these are full blocks and they're going to work perfectly in the walls of our containment cell. And also, these professions work during the rain, so you won't have any issues with that stuff. So place down a workstation and see who it links to. It's likely going to link to the village leader first. There goes the particles, and yes, that did indeed link to the village leader, so we're just going to put that by that guy. He's going to turn into a Fletcher, and then we need to give that to the other 2 villagers over there as well. Place down the next workstation, and we'll see who that links to. It links to that guy. Great, let's go ahead and put that right next to his bed. And then the final workstation is, of course, going to go right into the wall, and there he goes. Now that we have our workstations in place, we need to go ahead and block off this thing, light the nether portal, and get through 3 new villagers. Make sure there's no babies or nitwits, of course. And then once those guys are in place, place down the bell and make sure that guy over there is still the village leader. Break that, and yes, he is indeed the village leader, which is perfect. If any of these 3 guys get these storm cloud particles, you need to kill all 3 of them and then get another 3 villagers into this area. Anyway, we're now going to go ahead and place down the rest of the beds over here, and this exact layout just like so. It's basically just straight up 20 beds, and nothing complicated and nothing special about it. These 3 guys will then link to it, you break that block, and all 3 of them should pathfind right up the stairs and into the first containment cell. As you can see there goes the first 2. Once you have 4 villagers in the cell, flick down that trapdoor, and then you can start assigning these guys workstations one at a time. Place the workstations into the wall, wait for them to link up with the green particles, and then you can do that on the other side as well. So now that we have our first 4 villagers in the first containment cell, we are on the right track. We need to fill up this cell with 4 villagers using the exact same process. Bring your villagers through, make sure they're not the leader, let them up and into your cell, close the trapdoor, give them all a workstation, and then get another 4 villagers into this one, another 4 villagers into this one, and then 3 villagers into the last one. A little while later, we now have 4 villagers in this cell, 4 in that one, and that one, and 3 villagers in this one. That is because we can simply move this villager right here into the cell as well. So go ahead and break his workstation and then break his bed. He should then link to one of the beds down there and simply go ahead and walk right into that cell for you. That should make it a little bit easier because it's just one less villager that you need to get from the nether. Anyway, we now officially have 4 villagers in this cell right here. Go ahead and flick down that trapdoor and then of course link all these guys to a workstation one at a time. And there we go. All of them are now linked to their workstations. We can now start removing all of the scaffolding and bridging that we have in place for all of the other villagers. Make sure that you leave the leader village over there. He is very important. He needs to stay there and he needs to stay alive for the remainder of the tutorial. We can also go ahead and finish off our villager cell by pushing glass right above all of the villagers, just using a couple of pistons. Go ahead and remove all of those trapdoors and fill all of that in with solid glass blocks as well. One final touch for this farm before we move on. You need to place the bell for this village right here, right in the middle of the village containment unit, facing away from the quad iron farm in the center. That'll prevent these villagers from linking to other bells in the area and just prevent general linking issues. So now that we have all of our villagers in that containment pod and we got the village leader over there as well, we now need to replicate that entire process but for this farm right here. So have fun with that. And now we have 2 nearly identical farms mirrored next to each other with all the villagers in place in the village pods and of course the village leaders off on these sides as well. At this point you should have been getting iron golems long ago and they're probably off wandering around the place and you probably have a million cats annoying you as well. But alas, we are about to put all of that to an end because we are finishing off the farm. The first thing that you want to do is of course fill in the platform above all the beds with solid blocks, and then you can also remove the platform of solid blocks from below the beds as well. Be very careful not to break any of the beds because that can kind of mess up a lot of things, so make sure you're very careful when you're clicking around in this area. Line yourself up with that drop chute right there in the middle of the lower platform, and then go to the very back of the top platform and simply pop out that block right there. If we drop down, we should be lined up with that one. Now it's time to install the lower killer. You want to place a 3rd sign up right there, and then 3 signs going out on both sides just like so, and then 5 signs along this edge right there, another 3 in these locations, and another one right there, kind of like that triangle shape. Do that on the other side, and this is going to be holding up all of the lava. That way it doesn't spill down and it kills the golems the quickest. So just like that. We can place in the lava source right here by crouching, and that'll be just fine. And now we need to place in the water for the lower platform of this farm. Go ahead and place in 2 blocks upwards on each of these corners, facing the quad iron farm in the center. We're going to go ahead and place in water on the backside first, skipping the 2 edge blocks, so just all the way along this entire edge, skipping these 2 blocks right here as well. We need to place water all the way up along this entire wall, skipping the 2 edge blocks right here, water source up in that corner, skip those 2 blocks, and then water all the way along this edge right here as well. Skip these 2 inner blocks, have a water source up, skip those 2 inner blocks, and then just water all the way along this wall right here. That should flush absolutely everything to the center, but now of course we have a couple of dry spots. All you need to do is line yourself up with the center, place in a block, and then another block, and then a 3rd block, and that will flush everything towards the exact center. Do that again on this side, so 1 block, 2, and then a 3rd, and that'll flush everything to the center as you can see right there. Of course, make sure you remove these blocks as well. The top platform of the farm is a little bit different. You want to line yourself up with the villager containment unit and then mine out a block in the floor right here. We're going to be replacing this entire line of blocks with magma blocks. That way, as we're pushing the golems across, it does just a couple extra points of damage, allowing them to die ever so slightly quicker. On top of each one of these magma blocks, you want to have yourself a sign. Doesn't really matter how you place it in, just make sure there's a sign above these magma blocks. And now we want water all the way along this entire back edge of the farm right here, and that's going to flush towards this side. Now we need to modify this back wall right here and place in 7 solid blocks. So basically just wipe out 3 blocks to either side of the center, place glass all along the top of those solid blocks, and now we need to put in signs on all of those in a giant triangle shape just to hold up the lava. Place in your lava source right there. The finishing touches for this farm is going to be a line of water across all these signs right here. So skip these 2 edge blocks and then just go ahead and place water all the way along. Skip these 2 edge blocks as well. You want a water source up right there. That's going to flow towards that edge, and then a water source on this edge as well. Place in a water source in this corner and another water source in this corner right here. Once those are done flowing, you need to place in 2 solid blocks right there, and that'll allow the water to flow extra far, pushing all those items right into the center. Remove those 2 blocks and do the same thing on this side over here, and that is all of your water streams successfully in place. That's going to push all the golems from the top platform into that kill chamber. They'll die, the items will drop down to the lower platform, and then all the golems that spawn on this platform will die in the center. The final finishing touches is that you want 3 pieces of glass right here, just so that none of the items or cats land up on this edge. And this is what it should look like once both farms are completely done and dusted. As you can see, it is pretty straightforward, pretty simple, and exactly what you should expect. We got iron golems and cats dying galore, and we're getting all kinds of drops in the loot chest down below. So now that we have these 2 farms completely done and dusted, what we need to do is murder the leaders of the village, which you should still have off on the edges. So of course we still got the, 20 villagers over there, as you can see, spawning iron golems quite frequently. We can now go ahead and break the workstation over here. We can break the bed of this leader, and we can kill him as well. That'll make one of those 20 villagers the leader, and that'll collapse the village and make it much smaller and make it centered completely on the iron farm. You now want to do that on the other side as well for that village leader. Go around the area, kill any additional cats and iron golems that you see, and that is pretty much all there is to it. So now that we have these 2 farms completely done and ready to go, like fully, completely, actually done, you can start that entire process, this entire video over again, and do it on this side, and this side, and this side as well. And then once you've done this video 4 times over, and the quad iron farm video 4 times over, then you'll have a 12 stacked iron farm. It's really simple, isn't it? The AFK spot for all 12 of these iron farms is a rather specific place. You need to go to the central chunk of your simulation distance, of course, to make sure that everything is perfectly loaded. You need to go to the central 2x2 of this chunk, and then on the northwestern block, that is going to be your exact AFK spot. So as you can see, if we pull out the locator map, that is north, this over here is west, that is the northwesternly direction, and that is the block that you need to stand on in your central 2x2 to make sure that every single one of your iron farm works. If you're not standing in that spot, then some of the iron farms around the edges will not work. You don't need to put a minecart in here necessarily. This is just for easy lounging of your iron supply. And that's all there is to it. Once again, a huge thank you to pekoneko for designing, testing, engineering, and creating this absolute beast of an iron farm. It took him weeks upon weeks to get the quad and 12 stacked iron farms to work as well as they do. I hope that they serve you very well in your Bedrock Edition worlds. I'll likely be building this myself as well, simply because it is such a marvel, such a feat of engineering, and I really love seeing this kind of tech on the Bedrock Edition. So show some love for pekoneko down in the comment sections, of course, and if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, then let us know down there as well. We're trying to help you guys out as much as we possibly can, but with that, that is going to do it for today's tutorial. If you enjoyed, leave a like. It helps out the video and the channel a ton. If you're new here, then consider subscribing so you don't miss more tutorials like this on the channel in the future, and otherwise, I'll see you all down in the comment section and in the next one. Thank you again for watching. And then there was silence.